Welcome to In My Feelings, a safe space to talk all things NBA. I'm your host, Big Waz. Let's go. All right, folks, let's get right into Factor Feelings. First up, the Philadelphia 76ers are the most dangerous lower seed in the entire NBA playoffs. It's a feelings. Joel Embiid came back on Tuesday night. Had a pretty nice game, especially for his first game back off a significant knee injury, which he had surgery on. I know they kept playing like the word salad, operations or whatever, but it was a surgery. It was major. It was invasive, but he's back. 2 months of not playing. They ended up beating a shorthanded OKC team. I thought Joel played well. If not, a guy who looked pretty winded, didn't have his conditioning, but that's to be expected after somebody is not able to play NBA hoops for 2 months. And the reason why I think the idea that they're the most dangerous lower seed is a fiction is because it's for a couple of reasons. One, they're pretty locked into that play-in situation. Maybe things could work out that they end up beating the Miami Heat or the Pacers for the 7th seed, and they play the Bucks, who have been clearly a weaker team than the Celtics this regular season. But in all likelihood, they're going to play a road game in the play, and they're going to lose it. And they're going to have to play the Celtics in the first round, who have whooped everybody's butts up and down the court, and a team who's been a particular bugaboo for Joel Embiid. The guy's coming back from a crazy injury, and let's not get it twisted. I understand why people seem pretty high on this team, because before Embiid went out with injury, it's easy to forget this. The guy was playing at an all-time regular season level, essentially scoring more than a point a minute. He was averaging like 36 points a game on extremely high efficiency while playing his customary, very good, if not some nights even great defense, right? And the Sixers have made improvements. They've added Buddy Hield. Obviously Maxey made his first All-Star team this year. So, he's steadily improved as the season has gone on. I just find it hard to believe that this guy's going to come back from this kind of injury this quickly and be able to ramp up in such a way that they're going to beat the best team of the NBA regular season, right? And again, the Celtics have kind of owned Embiid his entire career, particularly in the playoffs, and last year included in that. His playoff track record is not one that would indicate we should be looking at this dude, again, coming off of a knee injury, to go out and put the team on his back. Now, I know some of these names sound great, right? It's like, wow, they added Buddy Hield. Kyle Lowry now comes off the bench. Tobias Harris is like a guy, allegedly. I've seen these dudes play in the playoffs recently, y'all. Like, they're not world beaters. And so, yeah, I'm of the opinion that these guys are not a serious threat. It's a shame that the injury happened. Next year, I think they'll be able to build back better. They got all this space in free agency. Daryl Morey's always been a creative GM. They got to pray for better injury luck next year. But this year, don't count on these guys making any noise in the playoffs. All right, folks, let's get into Vibe Check. This week, we're checking in on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have recently been in the news. Their ownership, or clown show, that is what was supposed to be an ownership transformation. We're not going to bore you with the details, but Alex Rodriguez and his partner, Mark Lowry, they're not going to be able to buy the team anymore. They're going to fight it. They're going to try to do this in the courts. Glenn Taylor, the idea that he set this up as some layaway situation where you pay as you go, like I used to at the Marshalls for a freaking polo sweater back in the 90s. I never understood this, but it's blown up. This thing is going to get messy. It's going to play out in the courts. I think they got some like arbitrator who's going to decide it was in like the contract or whatever, which can't be good as far as stability going into the biggest playoff in the history of the franchise. But, what do I know? Glenn Taylor has only presided over the team for 30 years and change and been a complete and utter mess. I'm sure he knows how to preside over tranquility. Back to the Wolves anyway, on the court. Back on March 7th, Karl Towns fell to a meniscus injury. Obviously, the guy was their second All-Star. He's their second best player. I probably think Rudy is, but whatever. You get what I'm trying to say. He's an important player on the team. When he went down, I was kind of nervous that the Wolves might take an immediate nosedive, but that just has not been the case. As of this recording, they're 9-4 since Towns went down, 16th in offensive rating, 6th in defense, a 5.3 net rating, which is like, look, they're not the 86 Celtics, but that's pretty freaking respectable for having an all-star be out for this long a period of time. And you know, you would think that it was Anthony Edwards, their clear future and present superstar, that was carrying the load, but it really hasn't. He's actually been, you know, slightly off of his efficiency standard that he set this season in the last 13 games, which is kind of to be expected. You can kind of more load up on Ant now that Karl Towns, their second most dangerous offensive player, isn't out there. But it's been the ancillary guys. It's been Mike Conley has taken a larger role in scoring slow-mo as far as what he's doing in the playmaking realm, just being a glue guy, a connector, being one of the few people in the NBA in Rudy Gobert's history that's willing to pass him the ball. Allow him to shoot a layup over a 6'2" guy every now and again. Naz Reid, all of these guys have stepped up in bigger roles and count on their defense and, you know, pull out some close games the way they do. I think it bodes well for what it says for their future, and not just in the immediate in the playoffs, but just going forward, that like they were not beaten down by this major loss, man. I'm still very bullish on their playoff prospects. I think whenever you can bring an elite unit into any situation, that's like just a huge advantage in the playoffs. And I think their defense is going to travel. I know a lot of people have their misgivings about what Rudy Gobert can do in the playoffs. They say he's quote-unquote got playing off the court that got exposed in previous playoffs matchups. Can we just dispel this notion that Rudy Gobert can't play in the playoffs? Back in Utah, they had a really peculiar way of building the team around Rudy, which is like, okay, Rudy, you're the best defender since sliced bread. And so what we're going to do to complement that is surround you with all zeros and negatives on defense, and having only one-way offensive type of players on offense and to buttress that. And then they ran into opponents who exploited that. Like that Clippers series, it's like, oh, Rudy's not playing out in space. Excuse me, Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley, these guys were getting fish filleted on the perimeter. I'm talking about one move and guys were at the rack. So no, Rudy couldn't guard the paint, then spray out the shooters, you know, for closeouts and stuff like that. In Minnesota, it's the opposite. We're talking about two dogs on the perimeter when you talk about Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, and not just their physical gifts. These guys want to get after people. They want to dig in people's asses on defense, all right? And so it's a completely different proposition. I think they're just going to be a high-level playoff defense, and it's going to be about Ant learning on the job, you know, making better decisions, leaning on the Mike Conley types. You know, Karl Towns absolutely coming back, which, you know, according to the Timberwolves, he's on track to be back by the time the playoffs start. And so, yeah, man, I think I love their resiliency in this time, you know, of being shorthanded. And I just think the way the group is coalescing and gelling right now at the right time, I think it bodes well for their prospects, despite the messiness of their god-awful ownership situation, man. I'm still pretty positive about the Timberwolves going forward into the playoffs. The magic of the NBA, even when we're not watching incredible dunks and highlights and crossovers and no-looks and alley-oops and all of that, just off the court, we're just often provided with some of the best content in all of entertainment, I would argue. And God bless my man Baxter Holmes over at ESPN, who did a story about Phoenix Suns owner Matt Ishbia. He's the CEO of United Wholesale Mortgage, who's in a big rivalry with Dan Gilbert of Quicken Loans Mortgages, and he hates the guy. And apparently a few years ago, they became the number one, you know, predatory mortgage lender. Wholesale private mortgage lender. They became number one in that aspect. And he called one of his business partner associates and left the following voice messages. Check it out.
Hey, buddy, hope you're doing good. Just want to say I love you. We fucking took those cocksuckers down. Fuck them. And we're going to keep fucking sticking it to them forever. Fuck those guys. We're number one. We kick the shit out of them. Brokers are number one. UWM's number one. You're number one. We're all number one together. And fuck them. I fucking hate them with all my heart. And we're going to keep kicking their ass every fucking day. That's why I was here fucking at 4 a.m. again today. I don't give a fuck. We're going to keep kicking ass. And so, love you, man. We talked about it. We wait for rates to go up. I'm going to win. You're going to win. Both are happening right now. Keep hiring. Keep building. Keep growing. Let's fucking go.
I know that Matt Ishbia has like a reputation of running everything like a basketball team, and he was a walk-on and he went hard and this and that. I don't think you need to be calling your guys, your troops out there, and spewing these kind of words on voice messages. I happen to enjoy it, but it's not the best practices. I think the only redeeming quality is that this is about Dan Gilbert, the Comic Sans King. And so, you know, I much greatly appreciate that. But whoo, Lord have mercy. What a piece of sound. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our show for today. Make sure you subscribe to the Ringer NBA's YouTube page. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that you are alerted to every single new episode that drops. And give this video a thumbs up, man. Let the people working them YouTube algorithms know that you're really enjoying the show. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.